Are live with day 5 of our GMP Live feature. Today we're going to chat about equipment and what the requirements are for equipment and equipment cleaning and calibration and all sorts of good things. So if you're just joining us, if this is your first time watching one of the GMP Lives, we're doing a 21-day feature where we cover little bits and pieces of GMP requirements. GMP requirements are the same across the board, whether we're doing natural health products or whether we're doing cosmetics in Canada. They are all based on the International Standards Organization 22716-2007. That number is going to forever be stuck in my head, by the way. So today let's chat about equipment. So every natural health product and cosmetic shall be manufactured, packaged, labeled, and stored using equipment that is designed, constructed, maintained, operated, and arranged in a manner that permits the effective cleaning of its surfaces. So any equipment that you have needs to be able to be absolutely cleaned and sanitized and made fresh with every single use in between batches as well. It needs to permit it to function in accordance with its intended use. And we will touch more on that. I do intend on doing an SOP live feature for you guys as well. So the SOPs are where we get more into the actual operations of the equipment from start to finish. So what it looks like to take it apart, clean it, put it back together, use it, what all the moving parts are, and so on and so forth. So it has to permit it to function in accordance with its intended use, which will be covered in the SOP on that equipment piece. And it needs to prevent it from contaminating the natural health or cosmetic product. So meaning that there is no leakage, there's no seeping. I know we talk a lot about seepage and things like that when we're talking about essential oils and we're talking about more potent natural chemicals and using plastic containers. So when we use plastic containers, we can seep the chemicals out of those plastic containers. That's why it's always critical to use glass containers for essential oils. So we need to make sure that the equipment does not contaminate whatever product we are making. And it needs to prevent it from adding an extraneous substance to the natural health product. So again, that seepage and that if a container is not meant for formulating, and I mean formulating in a broad sense, so like I mean glass containers are absolutely the best way to go, because you're not going to get any leaching of the plastic, any leaching of the chemicals that may have been used to make that container or that piece of equipment or that tool. And so we always want to make sure that we are purchasing and using equipment that is not going to contaminate or leach in any way into our final product. So the purpose of these requirements really is ultimately to prevent any kind of contamination, cross-contamination, or leaching that will alter the finished product state of what you're making. So if you're making a cosmetic, if you're making a natural health product, we want it to only be the ingredients that we select, that we review, that we approve to be in there. We don't want it to be anything that it's pulling in from the equipment that we're using. Likewise, if you're using mechanical, any type of mechanical equipment, and this could be something as simple as a hand blender, all of those gears are greased, and we want to ensure that our equipment is properly enclosed so that grease will in no way ever touch our product in the bowl, things like that. So really that is what this portion of the good manufacturing practices is designed to ensure. It is designed to ensure that there's no contamination from any of our tools, any of our containers, anything that we use during this process of manufacturing and making. So it goes on to say in the GMP outline, contamination problems may arise from inadequate cleaning practices, poor maintenance, the misuse of equipment, or exceeding the capacity of the equipment, and the use of worn-out equipment. So equipment arranged in an orderly manner permits effective cleaning and does not interfere with other processing operations, and it minimizes the circulation of personnel and optimizes the flow of materials. So essentially what that's saying in English is, when you're setting up your workspace and you're going in to formulate and you're going in to make product, you want to have all of your ingredients and all of your tools cleaned, sanitized, ready to go, properly labeled, properly laid out so that we can grab and use. And so we're not back and forth, because the more we're back and forth, even in our own areas, and even if it's only us and there is no personnel per se, we still, the air movement, the traffic back and forth, just all of that just adds to the chances of potential contamination. And so in the description and the intent of this portion of the act, really it's just trying to say, be as careful as we can be. Make sure our equipment's sanitized, make sure our surfaces are sanitized, make sure we're properly prepared in advance, make sure we're using equipment that's the right equipment for the job, at all times, just to eliminate that potential for having a contamination issue. So then it goes on, and there are 9 different points here. So to meet these requirements, what it says is that manufacturers, packagers, labelers, importers, and distributors should ensure the following where applicable. Alternatively, justifications and rationale for the exemption of the requirements should be provided. So if you cannot meet all 9 of these, you need to provide a rationale in your good manufacturing practices as to why you can't meet them. So number 1 is production equipment is designed, constructed, installed, and maintained to facilitate cleaning, sanitizing where appropriate, and inspection of the equipment and the surrounding areas. Specifically, this means establishing and following procedures for cleaning and maintaining equipment and utensils used to manufacture products, avoiding temporary repairs, i.e. with tape, and clearly labeling defective equipment as such. Again, all of this is super straightforward stuff. I'm sure most of us are doing this already without even realizing that it is part of good manufacturing. So ultimately, what good manufacturing boils down to is recording of these practices and recording of the cleaning of the equipment and the calibration of the equipment. So we're going to move on to number 2. Number 2 is each piece of production equipment is operated accordingly to its SOP. So that's what I was mentioning before. In the SOP, which stands for Standard Operating Procedure, we will outline which pieces of equipment we use for our manufacturing and the process by which we use them and the process by which we clean them. And so when we do go to manufacture, we need to be following that process every time with that specific piece of equipment. Number 3, production equipment and utensils having direct contact with materials and products are constructed of smooth, non-reactive, and non-toxic materials and are designed to withstand repeated cleaning. So again, that is something that, is pretty standard. It's something most of us are practicing already. Bear with me. And it's just a matter of acknowledgement that this is part of what good manufacturing practices are, and continuing, as we develop our good manufacturing practices, it's following those processes the same way every single time. On to number 4, avoid the possibility of lubricant or other maintenance materials contaminating the products by ensuring proper design of equipment. So again, that's what I was talking about, grease, and that's just one example. There's oil, there's grease, there's all sorts of different lubrications that we would use on equipment, right? When we think about how equipment is made and how gears turn and gears work, even a hand mixer requires grease in order for the beaters to spin. So we need to ensure that we are avoiding any possibility of that lubricant touching our product and contaminating it. Number 5, control and monitor temperature-sensitive compartments and keep records. So I don't know if you've ever done it. I have done it where I have overheated a mixer because it was not designed for making bread dough, and I was making a karavi, which is the Ukrainian wedding bread, for my daughter, and I used the wrong blender, and I overheated the blender, and it was god-awful. I don't recommend it, but that's what that one's talking about. You want to make sure that anything that's temperature sensitive, like you can overheat a motor really easily if you're using it for something it's not meant for, right? It's the same thing with any equipment. So we want to be, aware of what the capacity is for each piece of equipment and be using it accordingly. Number 6 is properly maintain instruments and controls, including laboratory equipment, to ensure that they remain accurate and retain records. So this is getting into like proper calibration of our scales is a great example for number 6. We want to make sure that we are properly cleaning, sanitizing, and calibrating our scales and recording the fact that we are properly cleaning, sanitizing, and calibrating our scales. Number 7 is develop a calibration program, which again is part of number 6. It feeds right into it. So develop a calibration program for critical manufacturing, packaging, and testing equipment, and maintain records. So, you know, I do, when I am doing a lot of manufacturing, like when the world was short on sanitizer and I was pumping out like hundreds and hundreds of bottles of sanitizer in a day, I was calibrating my scale multiple times a day. Now that we're back to kind of just standard operations and standard speed of production, I calibrate once a week. If I'm making something and it's climbing up there and it's go again, then I will change that calibration scale. But I also record the change and the validation as to why we're changing it in my GMP notes as to my calibration schedule form that I use. Number 8, maintain records of equipment cleaning. That's, you know, we're all cleaning our equipment. The only difference is here we need to keep the records of cleaning it. And number 9, maintain equipment usage logs. So, and, you know, as part of, I guess, my required documentation in my GMP and SOP courses that I'm developing and working on for you guys, I have templates for all of this set up. Part of my master manufacturing record is a maintenance record for equipment. Or sorry, not a maintenance record, a usage record. So basically when you're making a product, what pieces of equipment are used. And then you just literally will check it off and initial, and it's very straightforward. So the type of GMP evidence required for equipment may vary. However, it's expected that all requirements stated above are supported by evidence. So ultimately, the evidence is the record keeping. Examples of that evidence that would be expected to demonstrate GMP compliance for equipment would be preventative maintenance schedule for equipment, an equipment cleaning and maintenance log, an equipment usage log, a calibration record for essential equipment, and relevant SOPs and associated blank record documents and templates. So that is really the long and the short of the equipment portion of GMP. Now, I can't share screen in Facebook Live, but I'm hoping that if I flip these records, you guys will be able to see them. So this is, we talked on Friday about equipment cleaning, the equipment cleaning and schedule and log. So this is just a template of what that looks like. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but there are 31 days on here. And so I just go through this and I enter all of my main pieces of equipment. I assign each piece of equipment an equipment ID, and then as I'm going through on my month here, on my 31 days, I will literally just check the box when I've cleaned it, when I've used it, and then sign off on it underneath here. And then this references back to one of my SOPs on equipment cleaning. The next one here we're going to talk about is the calibration schedule and log. So again, these are all just, they're just spreadsheets, right? They're spreadsheets that are designed to track and record all of the information that is required as part of the equipment portion of GMP. This one here is a preventative, I can't even talk sometimes, wow, preventative maintenance schedule and log. So again, 31 days worth of preventative maintenance. So this would be like oiling and greasing things that need to be oiled and greased and lubricated. It would be, let's say, replacing a filter on one of the strainers, or on, you know, a filler. Any of those things that would be recorded in this one. This is a list of gauges and measuring instruments. I don't use this a whole lot, in honesty, because I don't have a big enough production set up really to have the necessity for this. I do all of my filling manually and things like that. If you were to get, you know, an electric filler, let's say, you would require an air compressor to use that filler and you would have to record your air compressor pressure gauge and what the pressure PSI is required for doing the filling. And it's just a really straightforward form. And so even the forms that I don't use myself generally, I do have templates for as part of my development of this ISO package for Canadian makers. And so I have all of the templates set up for the good manufacturing practices, like the actual document and manual, as well as each of the required record keeping that goes along with that. And then I have additionally blank templates for the standard operating procedures, very much aligned with Canadian makers for doing cosmetics and natural health products. And I have designed them in such a way that whether you're doing natural health products or doing cosmetics, you can actually set it up to use one document for both. So you're not having to redo that to, like if you're applying for your site license with the NNHPD and you have to provide them with a copy of it, you can include in that your cosmetic portion of your business. And then if it's ever called upon, if you ever have an inspection, if you ever have a recall, you have your documentation right there because it's already complete. So it's a 2-for-1 basically. And then this one here is just the production log. So this is like what you're making, when you're making it, when you start, when you finish. And you just record it there, and you record the product that you're making, the quantity that you're making, the batch number, and who the maker was. And then you sign off on that. And that is all part of the equipment and production portion of GMP. So that was, I know it's a lot of information. It's honestly not as daunting as you think because, like I said, 99% of this you guys are doing already. It's just acknowledgement that you are doing it, defining what that step-by-step process looks like from start to finish, and recording it. And really that's going to be the biggest change in developing any kind of GMP for your company. So hopefully that was helpful to you guys all. I know there's a lot of information that I crammed in there today, but I wanted to, we didn't touch on this on Friday. I'd hoped to get into it a little bit, but I wanted also to answer some of the GMP questions we had. So I pushed it till today and figured I would cram it into one day instead of 2. So hopefully it all made sense. If you guys have questions, I would love to answer them. Drop your questions and your, I guess, comments and your, confusion, if you have some, into the comments. And I'm happy to always jump on and respond and, have the conversation, right? Like this is about two-way interaction. It's not just me talking. So I always want to be able to direct you guys and help you where I can. So hope y'all have a fantastic day. It's Monday. Hope the week ahead is absolutely lovely for you all. And I will be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Mountain Time for my day 6 GMP Live Feature. Hope y'all have a great week. Talk to you soon.